Hi everyone, thought I'd make for you a little YouTube video because I miss you and sometimes it's nice just to see a familiar face. So this is a little bit on food preservation and how we stop bacteria growing and hopefully stop ourselves getting food poisoning, and linking back to those life processes of how to prevent things growing and reproducing. So I'll put it on a bit of paper because I know you're missing my drawings. So first of all, one way to preserve food is using heat, or in fact the opposite of heat. So if you remember, bacteria are very sensitive to heat with their growth. So here is a graph with 0 degrees up to 60. So bacteria will grow very slowly at cold temperatures, but then will increase, and then if you go past a certain temperature, they will actually be killed off and die. So there's an approximate rule of thumb that with every 10 degrees increase, it will double the rate of growth and reproduction of bacteria. So here I have a picture of, it's supposed to be some chicken sitting on a bench, like in your kitchen. Okay, it will grow, the bacteria will grow 2 times faster just sitting on the bench compared with if you put it in the fridge. So you can halve the rate of growth if you put it in the fridge, and that's why things keep longer in the fridge, and they still have use by dates on them, but it'll be a lot longer than if you just had it outside. If it's not a 15 degrees day, but it's 10 degrees hotter than that, it's summertime, and you leave your chicken out on the bench, it's going to grow 4 times faster. So that's why people run into trouble when it's the barbecue season and they're not refrigerating and cooking the food properly to stop that bacterial growth, which will happen more easily. Even if you put it in the fridge or the freezer, even if frozen food will eventually you'll have to use it up. And whether it's been refrigerated or frozen, as soon as it comes out of that cold place and warms up again, it'll just start regrowing. So it doesn't kill it, it just slows the growth rate down. The way to kill the bacteria is to heat it up really hot till it's past this point here, because it actually destroys the enzymes and it just can't live anymore. So Louis Pasteur invented pasteurization because he was trying to find a method to stop wine going off, and he discovered that if you heat it at 72 degrees for 15 minutes, that kills all the bacteria. And so now we use pasteurization in our dairy products to do the same thing. Which leads me on to some other methods. So that was heat, so cooling it will preserve it for longer, it doesn't kill it. Lots of heat, you can kill it off. Other ways to preserve food include canning it. So in your pantry at home you probably have quite a few things in cans, and when the food is canned, it is sterilised first, so heat it up to kill any bacteria, put into the can, and it's vacuum sealed, so they've killed off any existing bacteria, and there's no air and no other bacteria can then get in once it's sealed. So it's all sealed in a sterile form, so that will preserve food for a very long time. Another way to preserve food is to use vinegar, so pickling. So things get pickled in vinegar, and vinegar has a low pH, so it's acidic, and not many bacteria can live in acid conditions. So way before they had fridges, people would make pickles. Another way to stop things, bacteria growing, is to dry things out. So you've probably got dry goods in your pantry, some pasta, some rice noodles. So these will keep a very long time as well. It's not till you add moisture that the bacteria will then start growing. So drying food out is very good, because as we know, all these living things need moisture to grow. Another way that preserves things is salting food. So especially meat and sometimes fish in the old days, and still today, people would salt it, and the salting of it is another way of drying it out. So here's some salt. I don't have any salted products to show you, but basically they'd cover it with salt, and what salt does is it draws all the water out from the food into the salt, and so it's another way of drying it and removing any moisture, just the same as we do with dried fruit. So fruit in your fruit bowl will go mouldy after a while, but if you dry it, dried apricots, dried prunes, raisins, all those things, they've just been usually air dried, but once that moisture's gone, then the dried version will last a lot longer. And the last one is basically any concentrated solution will stop the bacteria getting in and stop them growing, because they just want the right amount of moisture and temperature and pH and solutes that are in there. So we preserve fruit. We do heat it up and sterilize it, and then it will go in jars or containers, but it's surrounded by liquid, and the reason why it doesn't go off, apart from it being sealed, is that it's got a high concentration of sugar in that solution. So high sugar solutions also won't go off because that's too difficult conditions for the bacteria to live in, and the high concentration of sugar also reduces the relative moisture content. So that's why jam doesn't really go off as well. It's very sweet, very sugary. And the best one of all actually is honey. Honey virtually never ever goes off. It doesn't go mouldy. You can just leave it in your pantry because it's such a high concentration of a range of different sugars, pure sugars, that it's basically the ultimate preservative. If you want some more information about the whole drying out moisture thing, it's a bit of sort of chemistry and diffusion. So if you imagine the food, or the cells in the food, they will have some solutes in them. These are the red dots. But if they're put in a solution where there's a lot more of the solutes, so not the liquid, so there's relatively more liquid in here, a bit of stuff, but lots of liquid. Outside there's lots of stuff and hardly any liquid. Just by diffusion, so the random movement of particles, the water will just want to flow out because it wants to balance up what we call the osmolality of the two spaces. So that's sort of how things get dried out if we're putting them in salt or sugary solutions. The water just moves out of the cell, and so that way the food has less water in it, and with less water in it, it's hard for that bacteria and mold to grow in it. And that's how it all works. So I hope that helps a bit. Knowing how we can prevent infections is very useful, and looking after our food and our health. And there may be something to do with that on your test. Not sure actually, but it's good to know. So that's all from me for now, and hopefully I will see you in person soon. Okay, bye.